Why didn't they put our name on the flyer, Mama? Zoe asked, her small brown finger pressed to the bright yellow paper taped to the neighbor's mailbox. The flyer had big red letters, Maple Court Block Party, Saturday, and a list of fun things under it, like bounce house, potluck, games. There was a line that said hosted by the Walkers, the Jensens, the Millers, the Kleins, a little line like a door half closed. Zoe looked down the row of matching brick houses in their Texas cul-de-sac, all with the same short green grass and the same flags waving on the porches. Only one house looked a little different, the one with the blue door and the big pot of purple flowers on the step, the one where she and her mama lived. Maybe they forgot, baby, Ayanna said, even though she knew they hadn't. Her voice was light, but her jaw was tight. She had seen the email thread by accident in the neighborhood Facebook group, the one where someone had written, "Should we keep it to families we already know? Keep it simple this year," and nobody had argued. She had known what that meant. People we already know. People like us, not you. How you forget the house right next door? Zoe asked, her eyes big. We live here too. Ayanna brushed Zoe's curls back from her face and forced a smile. We do live here, she said. We can make our own fun that day. How about we do our own little cookout in the backyard? Just you and me. We'll get watermelon and make that lemonade you like. Zoe kicked a small rock into the street. But I want to play with the other kids, she whispered. Across the way, Mrs. Walker waved at another mom, laughing, pointing from one flyer to another, like she was drawing a circle that stopped right before Ayanna's house. Ayanna took a soft breath that felt sharp inside and took her daughter's hand. Come on, she said. We gotta get you to school. Some folks take a little longer to remember what neighbor means. Maple Court was one of those new Texas neighborhoods they always showed in the glossy brochures at the bank. All smiling white families and golden retrievers on leashes, kids on bikes with clean helmets. When Ayanna bought the small house with the blue door last year, after a decade of tiny apartments and too much noise, she had stood in the kitchen and cried because she could finally hang her own pictures on the walls without asking a landlord. On the first day, she had walked over to introduce herself to everyone. Hi, I'm Ayanna. This is my daughter Zoe, she had said, holding out her hand. Some neighbors had taken it, quick and light. Some had just lifted a chin from behind a screen door. You rent? One man had asked. You with the college? Another had said, like there had to be some reason she was there. She told them, I work at County General, and most nodded, assuming nurse because of the scrubs, never asking more. Nobody invited her to the Facebook group. She found it herself after someone spelled the name wrong on a package. In the group, they traded babysitters, sold used furniture, and talked about crime in other parts of town. They planned pumpkin carving nights and Christmas cookie swaps. She saw the posts, saw the pictures, saw her blue door missing from every one. Most days, she let it roll off. She had done harder things than live next to people who did not wave back. She had held someone's chest closed with both hands while blood soaked through her scrubs. She had told mothers their sons were gone, had stood under the harsh light of the trauma bay at 3 a.m. while someone screamed in the hall. Compared to that, cold smiles in a cul-de-sac were nothing. Still, when Zoe came home with birthday invitations that always had other street names at the bottom, when the block set up lawn chairs and grills right out front, and never once said, Hey, Ayanna, y'all coming? The small cuts stacked up like paper slices on her heart. Maybe they just busy, she told herself, and sometimes she almost believed it, until she heard them laugh about the up-and-coming side of town she had moved from, like they were talking about a wild place on TV, the week of the block party. The street hummed with plans that floated around Ayanna and Zoe like bees, skipping one flower. Trucks showed up with folding tables and a huge blow-up slide that the kids watched go. From a sad pile of plastic to a bright blue hill in the middle of the court, Men in cargo shorts argued about where to put the grill so the smoke wouldn't blow into everyone's yards. Ayanna stood on her porch in her county general t-shirt, sipping her coffee, and watched a group of women string red, white, and blue bunting between the mailboxes. "You working this weekend?" Mrs. Walker called across the grass, her voice loud but not quite friendly. "We got the party Saturday. Street's gonna be packed." Ayanna nodded. "I'm off," she said. "We'll stay mostly in the backyard." Mrs. Walker smiled, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh good," she said. "Less cars to worry about." When she turned back to her friends, Ayanna heard her say, lower, "We have to be careful about parking, you know, with only one drive that doesn't match the rest." The others laughed. That thin laugh people use when they're saying something they know is wrong but feel safe anyway. That night at dinner, Zoe poked at her chicken and asked, "So we just staying inside while they party out front?" Ayanna shook her head. "No ma'am," she said. "We're gonna have a better party out back. I got ribs in the freezer, and I'ma teach you how to marinate them. We'll put on our own music. We don't need an invite to have joy." She said it strong for her daughter's sake. But when she lay in bed later, listening to the low murmur of her neighbors' voices outside planning where to put the face-painting table, the words tasted thin. She thought about knocking on a door, saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm your neighbor too." But something heavy and tired in her kept her under the covers. She would save her voice for where it counted most. The hospital had a way of taking all of it. Saturday came bright and hot, the Texas sun already high by 9 in the morning. Maple Court turned into a picture from a magazine. Coolers lined the sidewalk. Kids ran in circles, their faces already sticky with snow cone syrup. Music thumped from a Bluetooth speaker, some country song about trucks and love. Ayanna and Zoe set up in their backyard, out of direct view, but close enough to hear the squeals from the slide. Ayanna rubbed spices into the ribs, while Zoe arranged paper plates on the old picnic table. "We could invite some of my friends from school next time," Zoe said, "like Mia and Yalin. They'd come, right?" Ayanna smiled. "I bet they would," she said. "Next time we'll plan our party first." A soccer ball sailed over the wooden fence and landed near Zoe's feet with a soft thump. A second later, a blond boy's head popped up above the fence line. It was Ethan from 2 houses down, the only one who sometimes said hi without his mom around. "Sorry," he called, cheeks flushing. "Can I get that?" Zoe picked up the ball and tossed it back with a grin. "Nice throw," Ethan said. "Smells good over there." A sharp voice cut through the air. "Ethan, don't bother them," his mother called from the front. "Come back to the game." He flinched, gave a tiny shrug that said more than any words, and disappeared. Ayanna's hand tightened on the tongs. Before she could say anything, a loud cheer went up from the front yard. Mr. Walker, the oldest man on the street, pushed a cooler across his driveway, his white hair shining in the sun. He had always been polite in a way that felt more real. A small nod here, a morning Ms. Price there. He lifted a hand toward her backyard now, giving a half wave, and she raised the tongs in return. A minute later, the music stopped mid-song. There was a pause, then a sound that made Ayanna's stomach drop, a woman screaming high and sharp, "Call 911. Somebody call 911. He's not breathing." Chairs scraped, a glass shattered. Zoe's eyes went wide. "Mama," she whispered. Ayanna was already moving. She pushed through the side gate, before her mind even caught up with her body. The years of training taking over like someone had flipped a switch. In the front court, chaos had taken the place of joy. Mr. Walker lay flat on the hot concrete, his face gray, his shirt dark with spilled soda. One of his arms twitched, and then went still. Mrs. Walker knelt beside him sobbing, her hands flying uselessly over his chest. A crowd had formed, but nobody was touching him. A man held a phone to his ear, his voice shaking as he tried to answer the dispatcher's questions. "I don't know. He's down," she ordered instead. Tell them you've got an adult male. No pulse, no breathing, CPR in progress, probable cardiac arrest. Her hands found the middle of Mr. Walker's chest. She locked her elbows and started compressions, hard and fast, her own breath steady, even as sweat ran down her back. 1, 2, 3, 4, she counted under her breath. Zoe had slipped to the edge of the crowd, tears on her cheeks. But her eyes did not leave her mother. Mrs. Walker clutched her husband's hand, sobbing, "Please, please, please," on every downbeat. Sirens wailed far off, the sound growing louder. Someone said, "The ambulance is coming," like it was a finish line. To Ayanna, it was just the next step. The red and white truck turned into Maple Court with a scream of brakes, lights washing the cookie-cutter houses in flashes of color that did not care about wood, brick, or paint. 2 paramedics jumped out, slamming the doors behind them, pulling a stretcher and a bag. "Adult cardiac," one called, striding over, his eyes scanning the scene. He stopped short when he saw Ayanna on the ground. "Doc," he blurted before he could stop himself. The neighbors froze. "Doc," the title hung in the hot air. The second medic, a woman with a braid tucked under her cap, blinked and then grinned with relief. "Dr. Price," she said. "We didn't know this was your neighborhood." Ayanna nodded, not missing a beat on the compressions. "Hey Marco, hey Jess," she said, like they had just met in the break room and not at a man's edge of life. "He's been down 5 minutes, witnessed collapse, no pulse. I started compressions about 4 minutes ago. Let's get him on the monitor. Mrs. Walker, I'm going to slide back so they can put these pads on your husband, okay? I'm not leaving him." Marco opened the big red bag, pulling out the heart monitor. Jess knelt opposite Ayanna, taking over compressions on her count. "On 3, Ayanna said. 1, 2, 3, switch." She moved to the man's head, tilting his chin, checking his airway, giving breaths with the bag Jess handed her. The street had gone silent, except for the sharp hiss of oxygen and the steady thump of gloved hands on a dying man's chest. "Charging to 200, Marco called. He slapped the defibrillator pads on Mr. Walker's bare chest. The machine beeped, then said in a flat voice, shock advised. "Clear," Ayanna ordered, her voice cutting through the sun-baked stillness. Everyone stepped back, eyes huge, watching as the man's body jerked with the shock. "Resume compressions," she said right away, as if the TV shows had all been lying all this time about miracles in one jolt. 2 cycles later, the monitor fluttered. A slow, weak line crawled across the screen. "We got something," Jess said. "Weak, but it's there." Ayanna pressed her fingers to Mr. Walker's neck again. A soft thump under her hand. Her shoulders dropped a fraction. "Okay, Mr. Walker," she whispered, more to him than to anyone. "Stay with us." As they lifted him onto the stretcher, tubing and wires everywhere, Mrs. Walker grabbed Ayanna's arm. You're a doctor," she stammered, as if this was the wildest part of her day. "At County," Ayanna said simply. "Have been for 10 years. The neighbors stared at her like they were seeing a stranger who had just moved in, even though she had been next door the whole time. After the ambulance pulled away, the sirens fading into the wide Texas sky, Maple Court stood in a strange quiet. The bounce house sagged a little to one side, forgotten. Hot dogs on the grill had burned 2 black sticks, while their cook stood in the yard with his arms hanging, not sure what to do with them anymore. Someone's red plastic cup lay on its side, pink punch leaking into a crack in the concrete. Ayanna wiped her hands on a towel Zoe brought from their kitchen, her fingers still feeling the shape of Mr. Walker's ribs. Her knees ached from the hard ground, but her mind was already 3 steps ahead, calling the ER to check on him, making sure the medics gave report right, imagining the bright lights and beeping machines of her second home. That was amazing," one of the dads said finally, his voice thin. "You saved his life." Ayanna shook her head. "We don't know that yet," she said. But we gave him a chance. Mrs. Walker, eyes red, stepped closer, almost shy now. I didn't know you were a doctor, she said. Why didn't you tell us? Ayanna raised an eyebrow. When was I supposed to do that? She asked, not unkindly. Between the good mornings you answered from your car window, or in the Facebook group you never added me to. A flush crept up Mrs. Walker's neck. Before she could answer, Zoe slid her hand into her mother's. Mama's the boss at the hospital, she announced, her small voice full of pride that pushed some of the bitterness right out of the air. People listen when she talks. Some of the kids' eyes went wide with a new kind of respect. For real? Ethan asked. That's so cool. One of the moms shifted, looking like she wanted to say something polite and careful. But Ayanna was suddenly tired all over. The crash of the moment had hit, the way it always did after a big case. I'm going to check on him at county, she said. If any of y'all need an update, Mrs. Walker has my number now. She looked at Zoe. Go grab my keys, baby. As Ayanna turned toward her house, Cheryl, from 3 doors down, the one who ran the Facebook group and the PTA and everything else, stepped forward. She held out a hand like she wanted to stop Ayanna, but couldn't figure out how. Dr. Price, she said, the title sitting new and strange in her mouth. Thank you, really. And we're actually having a neighborhood meeting about safety next week. We'd really love for you to come. Ayanna's laugh was short. A meeting, she said. Now y'all want me in the group chat? Cheryl winced, but she didn't drop her gaze. Yes, she said. Now we do. It wasn't enough. It was something. The hospital smelled like coffee and bleach, and 100 stories at once. When Ayanna walked through the sliding doors of County General, the security guard nodded at her with the easy respect of someone who saw her every day doing hard things. He came in about 20 minutes ago, he said when she asked. Got a pulse. In the ER, nurses moved like a well-timed dance, weaving around each other in bright scrubs. You picked a fine time to live on that fancy street, Doc, Marco joked weakly when he saw her at the nurse's station later, trying to shake off the picture of Mr. Walker on her cool driveway. We were glad you were there. In trauma too, Mr. Walker lay under a thin blanket, tubes in his arms, monitors beeping slow and steady. A cardiologist checked the screen, making notes. He's stable for now, she told Ayanna. Got him to the cath lab quick, thanks to good field work. Whoever started CPR out there knew what they were doing. Ayanna didn't say it had been her. It felt like bragging, and this was just what she did. She stepped closer to the bed. Mr. Walker's eyelids fluttered for a second. Ms. Price, he whispered, his voice rough. She smiled. You're at county, she said. Hart gave you a scare, but you're in good hands. A tear slipped from the corner of his eye. Glad you moved in next door, he rasped. Been telling them you belong. That sentence sat heavy with a weight she would unpack later. On the drive home at dusk, Zoe's head leaned against the passenger window, her reflection soft in the glass. Mama, she asked. Yeah, baby. Do you think they'll invite us next time? Ayanna was quiet for a long moment, watching the streetlights blink on one by one. I think some of them will, she said. I think some of them are going to look at us different now. The question is, how we gonna look at them? Zoe frowned. What you mean? Ayanna sighed. I mean we don't have to forget how they acted before, just 'cause they scared now, she said. But we also don't have to close our door if somebody really trying to open theirs for real. Zoe nodded slowly, still turning it over in her 10-year-old brain. Can we still do our own party too? She asked. Ayanna smiled, reaching over to squeeze her knee. Oh yeah? She said. That part's not changing for nothing. A few days later, a folded note showed up on Ayanna's porch, held down by a small potted plant with yellow flowers. The handwriting was careful and looping. Dear Dr. Price, it read. Thank you for saving my husband's life. I am ashamed I did not know you, a woman who lives 10 steps from my front door. I hope you will give us a chance to do better. Linda Walker. There was another envelope under it, this one with the school logo. Inside was a crayon drawing from Ethan's little sister, of Ayanna, with a red cape, standing next to an ambulance. The words "Thank you, hero" ran across the top in uneven letters. Ayanna laughed, the sound breaking into something softer, and stuck it on the fridge with a magnet. That same afternoon, the HOA email landed, this time with her address on the list. Emergency meeting, neighborhood safety improvements, the subject line said. All residents encouraged to attend, especially those with medical knowledge. She almost deleted it, but Zoe saw the notification on her phone and gasped. "Mama, we gotta go," she said. "You can teach them how to not freak out so much." So on Tuesday night, Ayanna walked into the community center, this time not as a stranger, but as the person everyone turned to look at. Cheryl stood at the front with a stack of papers and a too bright smile. "Dr. Price, so glad you came," she said. "We were just talking about getting more neighbors certified in CPR, and maybe, a neighborhood watch thing." A man in a polo shirt raised his hand. "I just want to say I'm grateful you were there," he said. We didn't know what to do." Another man in the back muttered, "Not quite low enough. Well, good thing we got us a doctor through diversity hires over at County, huh?" A couple of guys snorted. Ayanna's stomach clenched. She should have been used to it, the way some folks could thank you and cut you in the same breath, but it still hit. Cheryl's head snapped toward the back. "Mark, that's not okay," she said, her voice firm. The room went awkward. Ayanna felt all the eyes slide toward her again, waiting to see if she would make a scene or smooth it over. She thought about walking out. Instead, she stood. "I came tonight because my daughter's growing up on this street," she said, keeping her tone level. "I want her to know that if she ever needs help, her neighbors don't freeze or make jokes. I don't care if you ever remember my job title. I care that you learn to take care of each other before an ambulance has to come." The room was very quiet. Even Mark looked down at his shoes. Cheryl cleared her throat. Would you be willing to lead a CPR class?" she asked. "For the whole block." Ayanna looked at her, at the mix of hope and shame and something like real desire to change in her face. "Yeah," Ayanna said slowly, "I can do that. But it's not a favor. It's what neighbors do." The CPR class happened on a Saturday 3 weeks later, right there on Maple Court, this time with an invite slipped into every single mailbox, including the Blue Door house that now no one could pretend they didn't see. Dummies lined the grass, plastic chests waiting for practice hands. Parents and kids knelt in the sun, learning how hard you had to push to keep a heart going. "It's like this," Ayanna said, showing them, her palms flat. "You press down fast and deep. You're not gonna break him more, I promise. The worst thing is doing nothing." She watched as Ethan counted out loud, as Cheryl's little girl giggled at the breath mask, as even Mark tried, his big hands clumsy but trying all the same. Between rounds, Zoe and the other kids played tag in her yard, no longer a place they were told to leave them alone. After class, Linda Walker hugged Ayanna, crying again, but this time with joy lined in. "He'll be home next week," she said. "He keeps talking about how he heard your voice through the dark, telling him to stay with us." Ayanna's throat went tight. "Tell him I'm saving my spot on the porch," she said. As the sun dipped low, grills came out again, but this time plates moved across property lines. Someone handed Ayanna a burger on a paper plate without making it a ceremony. Kids ran in a pack that did not break at her driveway. It wasn't perfect. There were still looks sometimes, still small clumsy words that missed their mark. But there were also new ones. "Hey, what do you think about this? Can I borrow your ladder? You working tonight, Doc?" She found herself laughing on her front step with Cheryl one evening about HOA nonsense, the kind that had nothing to do with race or class. Just two tired women rolling their eyes at the world. The street had cracked open just enough to let something new grow. Months later, on a cool fall night, when the air finally lost its heavy heat, Maple Court held another block party. This time, the flyer had every family listed, including the Prices Ayanna and Zoe, written in the same bright letters as everyone else. Kids carved pumpkins on Ayanna's driveway while she showed Zoe how to cut triangles without slipping. Mr. Walker sat in a lawn chair with a blanket over his knees, a wide-brimmed hat on his white hair, watching the kids run